Hi, it's Nathan Young. I'm just out on a 10-mile training run on the Cleveland Way, and you're listening to Gary and Eddie on the TEA10 podcast. Enjoy.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Oh,
ready.
Lord.
Born ready. Oh,
he is not born ready, everybody. I can't imagine your poor wife when she goes, Gary, we've got to leave in 5 minutes. Does she give you and then she's like, come on. You're like, hang on a second. I just need to.
I'm out the door. We're hovering around the car. Don't give me that. I am on it.
I've got a question for you. If you chew chewing gum in the car, do you stick it on the door and leave it there? If somebody did that to you, what would you say?
So which member of your family are you going to throw under a bus?
There's only one that's allowed chewing gum, so that sort of narrows it down a bit. And you go and do the school run in the morning, and there's an old bit of chewing gum stuck to the dashboard.
That's pretty
What would your reaction be? I mean, would you be like, oh, that's nice.
Bless. Thanks for that.
Let's pull that off.
Maybe he thought there was going to be a little snack later on in the day.
My God.
That is pretty gross.
Where do you, then I was like, where shall I put that? I want to put that somewhere. And you're going to put your foot into that trainer and you're going to go... My tolerance for family germs, like if Esme or George or Lisa, I can kind of take a bit of their snot and dribble. But yeah, chewing gum. Right. Hello. Welcome to episode 108 of the TEA10 podcast. Apart from if you're my husband, of which you are in the doghouse.
I'm literally speechless.
Thanks for the intro, Nathan, from a very wintry Cleveland way. We love the intros. Keep them coming to email at hello@TEA10trails.com.
A big thank you to all our patrons for the price of a decent cuppa it is. I was in Costa Coffee on Sunday. 2 cuppas, 2 toasties. My eyes were watering. Luckily, I was driving. We have this unwritten rule: driver doesn't pay for the treats. But yeah, for the price of a decent cuppa, you are the ones that keep this sensational and delicious content flowing. Many thanks to all our partners. To check them out over on Patreon, they support the podcast and provide a discount code for countless running goodies. Join any Patreon tier and pay annually, and you will receive 10% off your subscription, and we will pop a snood in the post. Also, pop over to Summit Crazy if you would like to buy some awesome TEA10 merch. And don't forget, if you want a snood or a bobble hat, then you need to add your address to Patreon.
Do they need to send a stamp too, Gary, apparently?
That was not my fault. I was waiting for that, you rat. I can't believe it. So this is the story. I went to the post office with, normally I do it online, and I pay the correct postage. Nobody's ever complained, to the best of my knowledge. This time was pressed. I went to the post office. I saw them put it through the slot, she tested it, popped it through the slot, put on the, whatever she said was the appropriate postage, and then come back to bite me on.
Some of them did, some of them didn't though. Some of them had posties that were like, no, whatever. And some of them were obviously like, oh no, we need to charge you £1.50. Feel free, drop by Gary's. You all know where he lives, and he'll.
I was devastated when I saw that. You know what I did once when I was in business, old school, when you used to send out flyers and stuff to different companies. I sent them all out like hundreds, and I forgot to put a stamp on any of them. So all these hopeful customers had to go to the post office to get my.
We got a new partner. Tell me about it.
About the Run, an independent specialist running store in Kingston upon Thames, southwest London. Their aim is to make their store feel welcoming and inclusive no matter what step of the stage you are at with your running journey. They believe that finding the perfect running kit shouldn't be complicated or feel overwhelming. About the Run are there to help and simplify the process and provide the highest level of customer service, advice and motivation so you can focus on the run. Patrons can enjoy 10% off in-store and online. There are some exclusions. I'm not too sure of all the dates. It'll all be over on Patreon. Yeah, so pop over to Patreon, check them out. New Patreon perk about the run.
Thanks to X Miles, Precision Full Hydration, Harrier Trail Running, Phoenix Light UK and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show. We use all their products week after week, day after day to help us train, hydrate and recover. And don't forget, if you need a headphone upgrade, use the code TEA10 for £10 off over at SHOKZ.com. Big shout out to X Miles for supporting us for 2025. Pop over to X Miles for all your nutrition kits and needs. I thought, Gary, I did a bit of background research I popped onto X Miles over the weekend and I did a dream shop. I was like, okay, I'm hungry. So what I'm looking for, Gary, and I'm sure lots of people are looking for the ultimate car snack. I like to have a box of snacks in my car at all times because I never like to be away from 1,000 calories. If I finish a run, need to start a run, I've got a hungry child, I've got a snack in the car. So I found something, now I don't know how to say this brand, OTE? Do you say the letters? What do you reckon? Sure. Everyone's shouting at me. So anyway, it looks delicious. It's 40 grams of carb, seven grams of protein, and this is the big selling point. Is this a big selling point? I'm not sure. But you cut it is cut in half, so you can just have cut half. So you could have, like I often do, I drive somewhere and I'm picking the kids up 40 minutes early so I can fit my run in. I'm a little bit hungry, but I don't want a massive thing. You could have half before your run. You could have half after your run. I'm not saying that this is something that I've done, but this is something that I see future Eddie doing, and it looks delicious. So
I would never just eat half though. Literally,
this would be the
smash it.
So I bought a special M&S. I've got these like little, they call them bonk balls or something. A little bit rude. They're really expensive, but I bought a couple as little treats whenever I'm single parenting, I buy myself little treats to have. And I bought one for after my run this evening. And do you know what, Gary, I've just done? I've already eaten. So anyway, I'm going to buy one of these bars from X Miles, and I'm going to give it a go. I have no self-control. You too could try. Well, try one of these bars for me. You can pop over to X Miles. You get 10% off over at www.xmiles.co.uk. Also, at the same time, if you have any if you too are a car snacker, let me know. But if you've got any ultimate car snacks, shout me up.
Yeah, because I'm thinking sports nutrition wise, I love the Knack Nutrition Stroop waffles, but I think it's a bit messy for the car.
Are you a bit precious about your car? Because my interior of my car is basically
I'm so
kitchen.
sad. We've got covers on the two front seats. But that's only because I'm such a filthy rat, getting mess everywhere.
A filthy rat, yeah. You need covers everywhere you go. Links to all our sponsors, Patrons, and the Tea and Trails Ultra Weekend can be found in the show notes and over at www.teaandtrails.com.
Entries for the Tea and Trail Ultra Weekend are live. If you would like a weekend of trail running, entertainment and camping in the Lake District, then head over to www.teaandtrailsultra.com and get signed up. Thanks so much to everyone who has entered so far. Also, bring your family. If they are in the car with you, that is fine. They do not have to be racing. They can just come along and enjoy the weekend. Also, if you'd love to go, but you can't afford the entry fee, I hear you. Check out Ourea Events' awesome volunteering opportunities. You can volunteer at any event and earn credits to put towards a future event. Like I said last week, so many dragons that I shared a tent with, they were part of that volunteering program. They had a blast. They made firm friends and then took part in some of the best events in the country. A bit of soul searching and an expensive week. Oh, I'm intrigued.
Double race entries. This is news to everybody.
Yes.
And my cough has improved. It has taken me, thank you, everybody who's messaged me, all my family members and friends saying, oh my God, you sound so ill. I didn't know, I'm better. I'm still a little bit... But I was able to run yesterday and take deep breaths without coughing after the run, during the run. And I was able to run uphill on the treadmill, breathing fresh, freezing Scottish air. So definitely feeling much better. HRV still radiantly low, though, refusing to come up for the whole of... I think it doesn't like winter. It comes up one day and it goes, feeling good. And
Did you leave your watch on 24/7?
I don't wear a watch to measure my HRV. I wear another... measuring. I can't wear a watch to sleep in. It hurts my it's got like a gangrene, and that's so disgusting. Anyway, due to the illness, and I think a lot of people have had this. Well, a lot of my clients have had this terrible like winter flu as well. That's really knocked people out. It really knocked me out. So now beginning of February, and so I did a good week last week. I just did an aerobic week, but an aerobic week meant that I ran quite a lot of miles, and I did quite a lot on the treadmill too. So I got quite a bit of vert in, and then I ran my classic long run to the rugby match, which was cancelled. So then I thought, I'm just going to get picked up, have my cup of tea and muffin, and then just go home. I don't need to stand in the cold. So win-win. Sad it was cancelled, but I did my long run Winter 200, it was 2 hours 47. A couple of days ago. 2 hours 31. What is going on there?
Makes no sense.
It makes no sense, but also maybe, resting, having like 5 days off when I was sick and having a bit of freedom, I get a bit excited. And I do love some road miles due to being so ill and taking that step back and talking to Bryn, my two, what is that, Yodas? And Karen Nickel and Dev's my sort of like sounding board of things to do. I had wanted to do a track 24-hour race. Well, I thought I wanted to do it, and I started like the first 10 days of training for it, basically. Then when I got ill, I was like, do you know what? It was mumbling in the background, and I was like trying to talk myself into it a bit, thinking, yeah, this is good, this is fun. And then actually I had some other opportunities come up in March to do other stuff that were not in any way favourable to running a flat track race. So I was going to have to say no to, and I really wanted to do them. And then I thought, the fact that you really want to go and do something that's fun, you're not 100. I was just not committed to it. Was I not? And I never want to do something because I'm scared of doing it, because I would never have done any of the really tough long races I'd done, because they were terrifying. I didn't want to step away from it, thinking my biggest, learning opportunities and my biggest adventures in the last couple of years have been from doing stuff that I've thought that's not possible. And if I hadn't pressed enter like on the spine, like that's huge. So I had to like really ask myself, am I scared? But actually, it wasn't the race itself that I didn't want to do. It was more the training I didn't want to do, and my body, and the fact I'd been so ill. I thought you have to listen to your body, especially as we get older as well. And coming off that winter 200, I was tired, but I recovered really quickly. But then I got hit down low, and I do think that's a sign that I wasn't as recovered as I thought. And when I got a little illness, I normally can shake it off, and the fact I didn't shake it off, I think, was saying a lot. So I just felt that April, it was weighing heavy on me, and I never want my running to weigh heavy on me or the family, or it to become like a chore. I always want it to be a joy. It's not always a joy. It's not a joy, is it?
But imagine how hard your body's working. You're recovering from running, but then it's trying to fight a chest infection or something else too. Something's got to give.
Something's got to give. And I just felt like if I'm going to get back, I'm going to have to get back into training. This isn't the Olympics. I don't need to do this. I didn't want to disappoint anybody by not doing it. Who am I going to disappoint? Nobody.
I'll be disappointed.
You're a bit disappointed. Logistically, everything was just like, it's in the middle of the Easter holidays. It becomes about me again in the holidays. So I didn't really, we just had Christmas holidays about me. I just was like, just doesn't. And I do think it takes a bit of courage to step away and go, I've said I'm going to do this, but actually now...
And maturity. I think it's good. I think it's good to hear.
And I also kind of felt as well, you're much older than me, but I'm 45 now. And
I look younger than you though, Eddie.
Yeah, you do, especially today with my conjunctivitis now. I refuse to give in to being old, but I also need to work with it. When our podcast goes out with Darla, and she talks about living with cancer, and you cannot fight it. You've got to learn to live with your body, that you're learning to. It's a different, but things are changing, and none of it, sadly, as we're women and getting older, none of it is particularly exciting or like great. I can't wait until I get. Bryn and I were going through the perimenopausal symptoms, because he was like, "Tell me about what you're having," and we were. He was like, "Oh my god, dry skin, itchy ears, ringing in your ears, brain fog, heavy sweating, no sweating, hot, cold, grumpiness, not grumpy." It's just like a list. Anyway, I just thought, do I want to be trying to push my training in this next few months, where actually it feels better to be like a slightly softer approach, which I could still go and do that track 24 if I want to. But you know me, I am competitive, and I would only want to turn up at a race like that in fighting shape. And I could only motivate myself to race a race like that, knowing that I could potentially get the Team GB standard or potentially do well in the race. And in order to do that, I've got to go pedal to the metal from now. Every session has to count. I can't go for lovely dog jogs, which I do 90% of the time. And that's my life. And I love that part of my life. So it's like, well, why am I going to make this harder. We've also just moved. I'm going to have to run the same bit of road, whereas really what I love doing at the moment is putting a pin in the Ordnance Survey map or looking on Strava and then going off for adventures and not having to worry about the pace, the time, oh shit, that was a 12-minute mile when I need to be running 8-minute miles, all that sort of stuff. So all this was like, yeah, gotta enjoy it. And you told me that, and you were like,
it's funny. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, because you said some wise words to me. So
well,
see
it's
if
funny
you can recreate it.
I can't forget what I said. But it's funny, as a progression as a runner, you find something you love, then you think, I could be quite good at this, or you start chasing times, then it all shifts. And I think it shows a lot of maturity to go, I've got to enjoy this training. It's all part of it. It's not just the event. And I see quite often people enter big scary races. I suppose they don't really kind of look at the process as a whole, how it impacts their life, how it kind of bleeds into parts of life. And they get to the start line, maybe it's a DNS, maybe they get there completely underprepared. So I think to look at it now, months out, kudos.
So I made some radical changes and spent a lot of money on race entries. I very quickly said that I wasn't going to do the track race because I knew there was a waiting list, and I thought, right, make that decision, cut thread. But I knew what I wanted to do because that race had got into my earworm that people talk about much more than I was like, that's what I want to do. And I'm addicted, Gary. They are so bad for me, but I can't help myself running these 200 milers. I think it's because the last 3 I've done, like, they've had glimmers of athletic genius of about 10 minutes in them. And then the other 100 hours, I'm sure I can do them better. I'm sure I can do it better. Surely everyone believes in me, don't we? That Eddie can get one. If Eddie can,
if you show up enough, it's going to.
Surely, if I show up enough, one of them is going to go right, and I'm going to go, or I'm just going to keep on doing it. That's what I'm going to head towards. But I just love the training for them as well. And I love the being on the trails and an adventure. I felt sad because I thought, by stepping away for this 24-hour, am I stepping away? That's my last chance at being competitive athletically. Then I'll be too old then. It's kind of like a real life thing of like going, is that part ended now? Like I can't ever get faster. I can't ever be that fast again. Who says that has to be the end? Like, do I always need to be going faster? And maybe my role in this trail running community and stuff, or role in this podcast and everything, is so much bigger than being able to run a really fast 50 miler. So
have you mourned that decision to move to not into this?
Yeah. So I've been like, do I mourn it? Is it a mourning, or is it a like, actually that is, why are we being fed this thing that aging is something to be fought and ignored and fight against? Can we not be like, actually, I'm just moving. This is just a different, but oh my God, what a great, how amazing. I'm going, actually, I'm not going to run 24 hours on track. Instead, I'm going to run for 80 hours. Like, wow, what a body I have that I can be like. So initially I was like, oh, it's all over. But then I was like, Eddie, get a grip, double slap.
I suppose from a competitive point of view, if you were chasing, say the Lakeland 100 for 24 hours for me, for argument's sake. Although I'm getting older and yes, things are harder, the goals I did have at one stage in my life, they don't care that I'm getting older.
But also I do think it is different from a man to a woman as well, because I think the body changes that woman goes through in her 40s to 50s are huge. Our bodies are aging but yours is like a very slow but I think women have so much more to cope with. It's not just, things are getting a little bit creakier. It's like living with a different person that you have to, it suddenly appears and goes, oh, by the way, hi. And I don't know how long I'm going to stick around, but I'm here. My biggest takeaway, I think, is like, I want to be working with my body, working with what works for the family, what works for my life, and what is going to bring me joy. I'm still an athlete and I still want to be competitive, and I still want to always turn up and feel I'm being the best I can be. So I've got a 100 miler in June. So don't worry, guys. I'm not, I've still got massive races, but they just fit in a little bit better into the calendar. And I'm excited for them. Paying your tax bill and 2 quite big race entries in 1 month.
Oh, God.
Whee!
I need to put more money aside every month.
Do you know, that's what I've done. Like now I'm like, I've got a secret bank account. I cannot touch it. And I'm putting money aside in there every month. So next January, when it comes around to my tax bill, I can just pay it out of that without the like.
I smugly said to Lisa, because I was so pumped that I actually did my self-assessment. I said, I'm going to do it April the 6th, whenever it is you can do it in 2025. Instead of waiting until 2026, I'm going to do it straight away.
Oh, no, you've got to wait till like the 28th of January. That's the fun of it.
That's the rule.
You've got to do it when you get like an email every month. And then eventually you start getting one every day.
I don't want to do that.
And then you get
stressful.
the fear, and then you sit there, and then you go, why did I not do this? And then you spend 2 days adding up all your sums.
If I could do it at least before Christmas. I've already moved the goalposts.
Don't you think we should do it before Christmas? Why don't we do it in October?
Well, they want you to spend the dollars, don't they? Christmas. It's all to do with the economy.
But January's like my least anyway. Gosh. Anyway. So I had a good week anyway with all that in mind as well. I gave myself just an aerobic week. I had a pretty nice long run. I also was feeling a bit of winter blues. And so I gave myself a little challenge. I said, I've got to do, if you guys want to join me, it's a super fun challenge. Every day I've got to run somewhere different. If I need to run from home, it's got to be a lap, a different loop with different variations that I've never done before. But what I did was every day when I dropped the kids at school, I drove somewhere, just found a parking spot, parked up, opened up Ordnance Survey or Strava and took myself off. Oh, it was amazing. I found some routes where I thought, nope, we won't be doing that one again, will we, my little four-legged friends? On the single track that only deer use and the bramble. I went to hold the lead and I got a bramble branch and I pulled it back. Oh, the pain. I said, we're not doing. But then I found some incredible forest tracks, single tracks. I made some new dog walking friends. So if you want a little challenge, just take yourself 2 or 3 miles down the road, park up and go for a little adventure. And had I been doing the track race, I'd have been on that treadmill running 20 by 3 minutes.
I normally do stuff like that. Maybe when I've finished my goal race, that period of time in between training again, because I just find time is too precious to be exploring, pioneering when you're feeling.
But I just decided to go. I was like 20 minutes, probably. I faff around at home if I come home. And so I'm like, right. You can go 20 minutes and then you'll have such a nicer run, not knowing where you're going as well. So exciting. So it was a good week and I came out of it less coughing and with a different focus, but I think a better Eddie focus. Just remind me what your first race is. Is it Old County? Is it London Marathon? London Marathon,
yeah. And it's really funny. I'm in a London Marathon WhatsApp group with people from Sedgefield Harriers. So there's a little bit of roundup of the week. How's everybody's week gone? I'm saying I've been for a run, but everything is trail running. And I don't want to say, I'm doing London, obviously, but I'm not training for London because I don't want that to sound like I'm sandbagging.
Yeah, don't make that comment on the WhatsApp group because people will be like...
not training, then you get good for age or something like that. But that's on the day, I will be...
Imagine how sore your legs will be the next day after 26 miles, even at 21 miles. Are you going to do a couple of road runs before? Because otherwise...
Well, I thought so, I'm just thinking, because all of my training is like elevation based on the treadmill or long runs. There has been no just flat sessions. I love those. The one little ray of light in my Manchester Marathon training last year were those flat sessions on the treadmill. I thought I crushed every one of those. And as soon as I went on the road and tried to recreate them, struggle big time. So maybe I will throw a few. But then again, I'm really not bothered about London at all.
Okay, I'll remind you that at 21 miles. You could have DOMs for like 2 weeks after, which you could wipe out a couple of weeks training if you're that sore.
I won't have DOMs for 2 weeks. No.
Okay, let's have a little soundbite of that.
But this is where I'm kind of confused because on the day, yes, I probably will push myself.
You will. It's not probable. Take that out.
But for what? Because if I do decide to enter Northern Traverse, then 100% I will not be doing London Marathon.
But you're a middle-aged man. There's no way you're going to stand on London Marathon and go, I'm just going to jog around. But the only point in rinsing myself is to get good for age for another year. You'll still do it though. You'll still do it, Gary.
But my
That's
week
why I love you.
My week started off, icy on the trails on Monday. It was absolutely treacherous. On my local trail, they've tarmacked a lot of it, so it's nice for cyclists. But yeah, when the frost hits, it is not fun times. But it ended up being quite a big Monday. So easy miles with Rex. Then I ran to the gym, did the easy, I can't remember the percent that I set the treadmill on, but it was basically 2,000 feet of elevation. I've not done that this week, spoiler. Well, because I had a super big weekend, so I thought, well, there's no point in going and doing a massive Monday again. Otherwise, that would be 3 big days straight into the gym too. So I felt pumped. I had a big head start on the week with my strength session and some decent elevation. But yeah, that set me up big time because I was pooped. Tuesday rolled around. That was easy miles, and it was again slippery frost. And we talk about this quite often. When I finished my run, the thought of unclipping Rex, drying Rex, then go back out and do my strides.
Awful, isn't it? It's like someone said, we're going to slap a trout round your face. Which would you prefer? And I'd be like, I prefer that to the strides, actually.
I'll take the trout. But yeah, I did it. I went out and I think I did 10. So the first 3 were like
10.
Lot, isn't it? Stupid numbers that I think, maybe 6 should have been topped up. But
6.
The first 2 or 3 really rusty old bones. But the last few, you feel like, I am
the
moving.
Kenyan.
Thursday, 25 minutes on the treadmill. This rinsed me. But my asthma, I think it's the chest infection or whatever it is I've got going, this flu, cold. I think it's kind of triggered my asthma. That's not particularly great at the moment. I made a deal with myself. Previously, I bailed out at 20 minutes and did it as lower intensity as possible. I hung on for the 25 minutes, but the effort really wasn't there. And I put a comment on, I think, Strava, and I wasn't feeling it or something like that. And I really pondered, should I put that out there? Because it was a more of a note for me to reflect back on later on, like why that session was that pace, that effort, that elevation. But then I was thinking, is it just basically misconstrued as me fishing for sympathy? I don't know. But anyway, I put it out there and I did get a little bit of sympathy for the record. But my new Garmin, you could probably tell me if this did this with your watch. I think it's on like a fact-finding mission. Who am I? What is my heart rate? What are the paces I'm running at and all that kind of stuff? Because every day currently, it's not giving me any heart rate variability at the moment. I think it takes 3 weeks.
Gary, that must be driving you mental.
Torture, absolute torture. But it's also telling me, which I completely ignore, it's basically telling me to do a rest day. I don't think it's told me, the morning report, today's recommended. I ignore that. I'm following my own plan. But every day it said, don't do anything, which I find.
When did you last take a rest day?
I can't remember.
Well, maybe Garmin for once does have a...
But I did a bit. Maybe I should listen. Goodness me, I couldn't do that. Yeah, that's a good point. When did I last have a rest day? Oi, oi, oi. Well, we said this to Leroy, didn't he? And he was like, oh, God, I don't know. Run every day. I don't know. Yeah, run every day. Should have a check back. So I knew Sunday I had a little eye on a moors trip and I put it out there to a few people. So yeah, those 4 of us went in the end, which was really nice. So on Saturday, I knew Sunday was going to be kind of loosey-goosey on the trails. So Saturday's long run, I needed a little bit more focus, but I started with Rex, trying to, again, just trying to fit it all in with the family. I ran with Rex, then I ran to the gym and I just cranked the treadmill up to 15% because what we missed around here and the moors, if people are wondering, what was this session? Why did Gary do this session? And again...
Oh, yeah, everybody. Loads of people. Yeah, loads of people are wondering.
You would be surprised how many people slip into my DMs. So when I got the lakes, yes, you can go up Skiddaw. Bloody hell, it could be a 40-minute climb. Blencathra too, from maybe the bottom to the top from me, from say Threlkeld car park to the top's over an hour. I just can't do that where I live. So I had a little bit of a Rex there and back to the gym, and then I was 90 minutes on that treadmill at 15%, but then with 10 2-minute surges, I suppose, which got me into the kind of low heart rate zone. For, to be honest, it was probably mentally tougher than physically because 90 minutes, even with the distraction of, I finished Titans over on Netflix, even with the distraction of TV, that 90 minutes on a treadmill is a struggle. So much sweat. It was absolutely incredible. I had to jump off halfway through and refresh the towels because,
Oh my God.
But it was good. Like I say, locally, I cannot just go uphill for 90 minutes solid. So I thought that if anyone's wondering what the hell was this 90 minutes, it's not on my plan. My plan basically is maybe say back-to-back long runs with some moderate effort. So that's how I interpreted it. But I knew the moves are great, and there were some spicy climbs on Sunday, but they're nothing like that. So that's basically why I cranked it up to 15%. I just visualised, you've done this climb when you did the Northern Traverse. You're going up towards Grisdale Tarn. It's not a huge, horrible, steep climb.
No, it's a nice climb.
But it's a grind, and that's what I'm kind of thinking when I'm...
Okay.
That's my logic behind that. And then we went to Durham. You haven't been... I thought of you quite often on Saturday.
Oh, did you?
We parked
and you're
up...
sweating on the treadmill?
Yeah.
Or?
No, this is when we were mooching around Durham. We parked up just near Maiden Castle. Then we walked around the back of the complex with the running tracks. They were playing American football. It was just buzzing. Hockey, rugby. People were on the running track. Yeah, I just thought, it was completely different to when you were there.
Yeah, we did. We had that old running track. Well, it was just a grass, and it was flooded for most of the year because the river just...
Well, you should Google Earth it. It is like a whole massive institute. It's fantastic. But then we walked into Durham. This wouldn't have been there. It's the Riverside Kitchen, and I absolutely destroyed some pancakes. They weren't cheap. It was a classic. I just mentioned earlier to Shane, they came out there, a real head turn. Everybody's there with their sourdough and their poached eggs and their avocado.
Bit sad about their order, but this is the healthy order.
And the pancakes. The pancakes rolled out, drenched in maple syrup. So yeah, I undone the top button, relaxed into the chair.
It was slathered it everywhere till they asked you to leave.
The heating was on 11 out of 10. I could have stayed there all day. My belly was full. I had coffee, nice company. It's a good vibe in the cafe. You could just see the water out my peripheral vision.
Oh, and you're like,
I stayed there all day long. 11 quid for 4 pancakes.
Oh, wow. What does the world come to?
Back in the mows again on Sunday. Goodness, I can't believe how predictable I am. So we basically did the Wainstones half route again, but I bolted on. So you'll again remember this from your Northern Traverse. You go over the Three Sisters, then all the way up to Bloth Crossing, and you'll carry down the old railway line, I suppose, and then you'll get to Blakey Ridge. Well, we didn't go to Blakey Ridge. We turned back to Chopgate, that kind of area. Absolutely sensational. And sometimes you look at the moors and it's quite bleak and quite open, and you could probably come a cropper there and nobody would find you for about 6 months. But this little, what's it called? It was oh goodness me, Hodgebeck. Sorry, the little place called Hodgebeck. We ran down there was trees and, like you say, a little beck. So we did just over 20 miles, about 4,500 feet on that day. So that, and the Saturday was about 4,500 feet too. So you say bleak and you think that's a negative thing. I think there's some beauty in that bleakness too. That clag and the wind and all those kind of dull colours, seeing hares bolt over the landscape and stuff like that. It was just a lovely, lovely, dreamy day. Somebody messaged me and I can't find where it was. They wanted to know what this Brute Labs was. So if you're listening, basically go over to YouTube, search for Fitness Blender Brute. Search for Fitness Blender Brute Labs. That is exactly what I try and follow once a week. 80 miles, 16 hours of exercise, 15,000 feet of vert. The detail of the run. So I could train in the moors. That run on Sunday, 20 miles, 4,500 feet. You look at the ratios of that, then you would say that is a really specific long run for Lakeland 100. Distance per elevation ratio, but the nature of the climbs are so different. So yeah, we talked to 3 guests now about the Arc of Attrition, the nature of those climbs. So if you want to get specific, yes, your numbers can look correct, but you really probably should be getting out on that course too. We watched it. I've never heard of this. Have you heard of a phrase called a body horror?
No.
We watched Demi Moore's latest film, Substance. You should check it out over on...
Should I?
Valentine's movie for you and Bryn.
No, you're joking. Is it dirty?
Well, there's a bit of flesh in it. There is a bit.
Demi's flesh or?
Demi's flesh. Yeah, it was good. Kept us all entertained.
We're still ploughing on with the night agent. He still is in a terrible situation.
And it's lovely. Green shoots are coming.
They're coming. They are coming. We've got the snowdrops out here, but we've also got the start of daffodils. And when that first daffodil sprouts its flower, we've made it. We've made it, Gary. through with the coaches, supported by precision, fuel and hydration. Now, I thought this was quite a good little link, considering what I was whining on about at the beginning of this podcast about choosing my next this year, really to do with my how I'm feeling, how I'm aging as well. And then, funnily enough, Andy Blow has obviously been feeling the same thing over at Precision Fuel and Hydration Towers, and he'd written a really good article about being an athlete, getting older, what we then focus on. And he actually goes back and compares himself to his dad and his dad's training. The difference being his dad started his athletic journey when he was quite a bit older than Andy. Andy, like me, has been involved in endurance sports since he was sort of in his early 20s. So it's really interesting. There's a link on their newsletter comparing their sporting journeys, but then it also gives 5 top tips on how and why we should reshape our sporting goals. I like the way he used that word, as we get older, and sort of tips for doing that. So it's a really, I love the article, and I thought, isn't it funny when you're thinking things, going through stuff yourself, and then other stuff in the universe comes around. If you'd like to try Precision Fuel and Hydration, use the code TEA10 for 15% off your first order. If you're a patron, you get 20% off. Head over to Patreon for all the deets.
This week's question comes from Josh Turner. Now, Josh is stepping up to the 50-mile distance and would like some help and advice with hopefully stopping fatigue from setting in too much before the race is over. This week's question is from Josh Turner. Josh has been running for about 14 months. And Josh would love some advice on how to perform better towards the end of a race and how to improve muscular endurance, maintain speed and form, and build the strength needed to last longer in a race. For context, I fuel at around 90 grams of carb per hour, primarily using precision gels, so I don't believe energy depletion was an issue. Instead, it felt more like muscular fatigue. To work towards this goal, I've started incorporating more flat road sessions to boost speed and running economy, hill workouts to build climbing strength and overall increase in mileage. I'll aim to be around 80k per week. I'm still building up after recovery from Lakes in a Day, pushing it up a little more as I get closer to the race. I also signed up for shorter fell races to keep things spicy. Whilst I know advice might not be in time to shape my training for Pennine Barrier, I see this as a long-term goal, so it will definitely help my training overall. I want to stick to around 50-mile distances for now and see how much I can improve. Considering how much change from the 50k to the next, I wonder if similar improvements can be made for the 50 milers. Thanks so much in advance for your insights. I really appreciate your help, Josh Turner. 14 months, that sounds like quite a young athlete, and I remember my journey. It took me quite a long time to get that back end endurance where races didn't fall apart, that last kind of 10, 15k. Yeah, who wants to go first with this? Trish?
For everything you said, I'd say your general formula looks pretty good. One of the best ways you can improve muscular endurance and particularly form and stuff like that is strength work, basically. That adds a huge difference in terms of your capacity as a runner. So if you're not getting any strength work in there, I'd look at that. The other thing particularly is race strategy, and that's a massive one. Generally, the pace that we start off, I'd say with pretty much all of my athletes, it's always the guys who start off too fast. And pretty much I'd say every race I do, it's always the guys who start off too fast. It's easy to think when you're starting a race that you're not running too fast, but you probably are. So I would say look at your race strategy, because you want to be able to run comfortably for the vast majority of the race, and that will allow you to have some in the tank to then finish strong. You're not racing the first half of the race. You're trying to maintain consistency and you're trying to move as efficiently as possible whilst maintaining that flow, really. So I would say, in terms of what you're doing, I'd say that looks pretty good. It's a good little formula. Add some strength work to improve the musculoskeletal system, your power output. The other thing, like you've already said as well, in terms of the vert training you're doing, as you increase vert training, generally mileage does drop off a little bit. So that's to be expected. And you've got to get the balance right with that. If you do too much vert training, you can often have an injury flare up as a result of that. So that's another thing to look at. But my 2 things would be get some strength into your program and just look at your overall pacing. It's a pacing strategy that I would say is the key thing that will help you there.
Russell, what do you think? You're nodding your head. Yeah.
Well, I'm very strict on this stuff, Josh, so you're not going to like anything that I have to say. But, just with that proviso, I'll get stuck in. You're right on the limit of the least amount of volume that I would do for a 50 miler. Sorry to say. I think that you're running 50 miles a week in training, yet you want to do 50 miles in one go. Thinking about that concept, rather than dividing it into 7 and having a good night's sleep every night, you're going to do all of that in one go. That isn't going to potentiate your body as well as you could. 50 miles a week isn't enough. And I'll tell you why. The average person spends 4 hours on their screen scrolling or watching Motherland or whatever viral thing. And you can normally find more time than you think. So I would get out and do more miles because that's the absolute best way to specifically strengthen up your body, your bones, your mitochondria, the whole thing. There's so many things we don't even understand yet about how beneficial it is moving outside. It doesn't have to be running, but more time on feet, I would say, is really going to help. And then, like Trish said, you're a man, you're going to go out too fast. So you need to put something in place to prevent that from happening. A lot of the guys that I coach, I get them to very carefully make sure they don't overtake somebody that they know is slower than them in the field until the second half, and make sure that it's what's called a negative split. The second half, the second 25 miles is faster than the first one. So you finish full of running and then you've got momentum and you've got headroom to move into the next race rather than you've smashed yourself again and it feels awful. I would very seriously consider, as well as the weight training and everything else, just getting out and doing more. And you can find the time.
I am sure I have very few athletes actually that in peak volume weeks would go over 50 maybe, but most of my athletes are over 50 miles a week. I think that to me is quite a crunch point of injury risk, actually having the ability to recover from sessions.
They're going too fast. That's all. If you want to run
more time. So I don't think you need to but we're all different, aren't we? I don't think we actually need to get caught up in your volume. It sounds like you've got the ingredients for a good plan, but often I find when people come with me with this, like, I'm doing all this, is they're actually doing too much. They're trying to do like 2 or 3 sessions a week plus a long run. They're trying to get everything in. I'm doing all the things that's it, but nothing. So a little bit more careful thought about like actually maybe just doing 1 session a week, but making sure it's really, really good. And then you can working and making sure that your easy runs are easy and that your long run, if you're thinking, and I think perhaps as well, we haven't touched on like actually the mental bit of this back end of this race, Josh. When things get really hard, you need to practice mentally what's going on in your head when things get really hard. Like the back end of an ultra is really hard. We don't see that. We don't see, the crying, the puking, I really want to walk. Everything in your brain is telling you that this is really hard and you should go slower and you should walk. And it takes either a very special person to be able to ignore that, or it just takes practice and you go, I've been here before, I need to keep moving. And one of the big, you do say you take 90 grams of carbs now, maybe you need more. Maybe you need to look at overall whether you're piling those carbs in at the beginning, and then when you drop off of that energy depletion, is those carbs going down? Because I bet they are, because I think one of the biggest things about the fallout and the drop off of pace in the back end of races is either not enough fueling at the start, going off too fast, or you drop off your fueling because you're going slower, and then you get in that negative headspace of like, I'm not worthy to be here, it's all over, and so you stop fueling. So having a look at that, maybe choosing a race that you're less invested in to have a little practice. Try going off a bit slower, as you say. Try really making sure, have your fueling plan, stick to it, and actually see what you're taking as well. And then as well, spend a little bit of time on your mental strategy as well. What are you going to do? What are you going to turn to when things get tough? You can practice this as well in training. And a good way to practice this sort of like back end, I'm really tired, I don't want to keep running, is to actually incorporate into your long run and do something like set yourself like maybe a 2.5 hour long run, have a little warm up, and then run about 20 to 30 minutes tempo. Tire your legs out, tire your brain out a little bit, and then run about steady for an hour. And you have to hold that pace when you're tired and you don't want to, and you've still got to fuel, and you're practicing that dialogue in your brain of like, oh, we could just slow down. We could just slow down. And you're like, no, keep. So you're in that sort of safety blanket. You're not in a race, but you're just practicing. And again, that's going to help with your muscular endurance as well. Josh, you got so much information thrown at you, but it's such a great question because I know is part and parcel of ultras, is the first, especially a 50 miler, nobody goes the first 25 miles. Well, very rarely. First 25 miles were awful. Then the next 25 miles, that's quite rare. It's nearly always, I ran a great 25. So and that's why we're addicted to it, because it's trying to, every time we're trying to get better. But I love the fact you are trying to get better. Lots of things to think about, and let us know how you get on, Josh.
We know there's a huge difference between a 50 miler and a 100 miler. From a training point of view, would you guys, assuming the course is like apples for apples, would you say a 50k was spectacularly different to training for a 50 miler?
I think the key thing that Russell said there is the mileage difference. With the shorter distances, if you're a fast runner, generally you can get away with that. But it's the muscle fatigue. You have to have the miles and the legs for the longer stuff. I really do believe that, you know, getting that base is super crucial for being able to then, you know, to do those bigger miles and to do them well. The other thing I'd just say, Josh, is that nobody is at the end of a 50 miler is feeling good. Like, you know, at the end of the day, I'm
not feeling good on an 18 miler on Saturday. I was like, I can't believe I run 250 miles for fun, and at mile 14 I was like, oh my god, 4 more miles, I'm gonna die. This is terrible.
But nobody's feeling good. Everyone has breakdowns. You know,
mental, physical.
I mean, have you not listened to Eddie on the podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, so, Josh, let's go for a run together. Can you imagine you and I at the back end of that thing?
So, you know, we've all been there, and I can promise you this: from the top end to the bottom end, everyone is feeling crap towards the end at some point, from the absolute front of the pack to the last person.
You're not alone. Remember that next time. That Pennine barrier.
Not
alone. We are here with you.
Good luck, Josh.
Take a gel, do up your shoes, run some more miles.
Russell's coming to shout if you do.
I'm not going to join in with that. Nobody needs that.
No, you can leg it next time.
Excellent. Hope that helped Josh and anybody else. Yeah, goodness me, there's been a few races. I've been on my Ravenscar, was it a 30 miler? I remember coming up to Ravenscar and just being on my hands and knees as the cramp set in. So yeah, it was interesting. Some different opinions there. There is more than one way to peel an orange. There is more than one way to build a sandcastle. There's more than one way to make or bake a cake. There's more than one way to solve a puzzle.
How do you solve a puzzle? Do you do the outside first?
A jigsaw, always the outside first, isn't it?
Always the outside first.
I wonder if there's some like psychological data that psychopaths go from the inside out. If you have a question for our coaches, then pop over to tntrails.com, fill out the Google form via the Brew with the Coaches button on the homepage. Thanks, Phoenix Light, for sponsoring this week's interview. Don't forget, patrons can enjoy 10% off over at www.phoenixlight.co.uk. I think that is UK only. I had someone message me from Spain, I think it was. So apologies, yeah, I think it is UK only. And the best design comes from the actual needs of users. Phoenix takes providing mobile lighting products with excellent performance as the goal, and born for harsh environments as its mission. Never forget why you started, and your mission can be accomplished.
When I was late home, bringing one kid home from a football match on Friday night, the older one was out waiting at the bottom of the lane with the Phoenix head torch on and said, I'm going to wait for you, Mum, and then I'm going to race you up the road. And I honestly thought the head torch was some sort of like beacon. I was
That's
like,
interesting.
He had it on like full beam. And I was like, oh my God, what is that?
I've had some dog walkers and cyclists have a go at me before because my headlamp was too bright.
Too right. I'd love that. You're pretty much checking me out. You think my head torch is too bright? Love it. Thanks. This week's interview is with Shane Ohly from Ourea Events, big friend of the podcast and big friend of Gary and Eddie. We talk about his recent 24-hour sub-arc run, how his recovery is going from his Dragon's Back FKT, and we pile him with questions about the Tea and Trails Ultra, what goes into the organisation of a race, always a school day with Shane, learning something new. Hope you enjoy our chat with Shane.
This week, we are delighted to be joined by Shane Ohly, the Tony Soprano of Ourea Events, who are the team that are organising the Tea and Trails Ultra, also fresh from the 2025 Arc of Attrition with a sub 24-hour black buckle. Do you keep that buckle on you at all times, Shane?
Not quite at all times, but it does have to find a place at home, on my desk at home, like sat right there.
Is it like a proper buckle? You could strap it onto a belt and go strutting around Penrith?
I guess so. I haven't tried to attach it to a belt yet, but it looks like it's got all the right bits. So, yeah.
Also, there has been a lot of chatter around the Tea and Trails Ultra, so we thought it would be ace to invite Shane on just to share some insights into what it takes to organise an event, like the Tea and Trails Ultra. First of all, we've had so much ARC chatter, Eddie. It's been brilliant. This is our third ARC guest, 2 and a bit weeks out. How are you feeling?
I feel like my legs have fully recovered. I've actually been a bit under the weather, but that's not related to the ARC. That's kind of just life and illness. But my legs feel fine. And I kept saying to myself during the ARC, it's only 24 hours. It's easy. It's only 24 hours.
When did you stop saying that, though? About 23 hours?
Yeah, maybe about 20 hours in. The last 40K were pretty tough, actually.
Muddy coastal paths, did that take its toll on your feet?
So I did have some feet problems, but it wasn't due to the mud. I actually love mud. I'm used to running in the fells. I don't find it too difficult. It definitely was more slippery than it could have been, and that certainly would have made it harder. And I think, obviously, the further back in the field you are, the more difficult and more muddy it will become. And I was fortunate to be nearer the front, so less of a problem. I made a fairly novice, idiotic mistake of wearing relatively new socks with relatively new shoes.
You, as the
I know.
doctor.
I know. I had trained in them, but I'd done 10, 20K locally.
They need 20 washes, basically, running socks, don't they?
Yeah, so anyhow, I found about 50K into the ARC, my toes were swelling, my toes were very sore, and I couldn't actually run downhill for a good couple of hours before I got to Land's End and was able to get to my crew and swap into some smaller, thinner running socks, and that solved the problem instantly. But I have 4 incredibly black toenails now, which will fall off soon.
It's surprisingly common. I know somebody who did the Lakeland 100 in a box fresh pair of those Adidas Terex, the super shoes. Yeah, ripped his feet to bits. Have you got a return to running plan? I know your name's on the start list for the Lakeland 100.
Of course he does. He knows the list off by heart.
You're not a V50 yet. Will you be a V50 end of July? I'm basically.
No, you're safe. You're safe.
Hey.
So Lakeland 100 is actually my only A race of the year. I've got such a busy year of work. I thought, let's keep the racing simple, and I had, I guess, such a big focus last year with the Dragon's Back FKT. I just wanted to keep 2025 simple. So ARC is a bit of a warm-up, and Lakeland 100 is the A race, and then the rest of the year I will definitely be running, and I'll do local races. But I haven't really got anything else big on the list.
So what you go? I'm looking at your splits for each checkpoint for the ARC. And you're pretty steady, Shane. You're like a pretty steady guy to follow on the Lakeland 100. So what are your goals? What are your hopes?
Oh, God, don't put it out there publicly.
No, you could. Gary's just like, so do I stay with you?
I'll put it out there. I'm happy.
Yay.
So I think I've had a good look at how people's ARC performance translate to Lakeland 100. Yeah. And they're generally pretty equal. The courses are different but comparable. Certainly sub 24 hours for Lakeland 100 is my minimal minimum requirement, minimum goal.
Going to be going toe to toe, Shane. I love it. Well, it'd be interesting, then, yeah, because they are fascinating. I looked at the course profile for the Arc yesterday when we spoke to Lewis, and it just looks like a roller coaster compared to the lakes where maybe you got maybe 2 or 3 climbs between checkpoints. What does it feel like on the ground?
With the Arc, it's just so difficult to get a rhythm because you're just so often, going up, then down and up, then down. It's only small changes, 20, 30 meters here or there, but it's almost constant. And the ground, although it's a coastal footpath, the Cornish coastal footpath is generally quite a technical path, and it's rocky, it's muddy, and it's slippery. So it's tiring, and it's kind of closer to a fell race in many respects. And I know I've not done the Lakeland 100, but I know the trails very well. They're much, much more runnable. And although you've got bigger climbs and more ascent, you have a much more runnable surface. So I think, slightly different challenges, but probably roughly equal in terms of difficulty.
So when you head out of Coniston, you hear behind you, Shane. You're like
some wheezy asthmatic.
So I think I mean everyone has the same advice, isn't there? I started too fast at the Arc, and it felt easy because if you're fit to run 100 miles, running the first 40k just feels easy. And on reflection, I went too fast at the start of the Arc. So number one goal for Lakeland will be a steadier start.
Well, you say that with the buzz and the adrenaline constant, and there's that little pinch point on the first climb. Then you've got a single track. So, if you've got aspirations, I know it's minutes in the scheme of the whole race, but, I'm pretty sure you'll be thresholding it before you get to...
Probably. I've had this conversation many times about a steady start and rarely managed to do it. So... there we go.
Awesome. And was it your first UTMB event, the Arc?
Was it my first UTMB? Yeah, I think it probably was, certainly in the modern era. I was very surprised when I entered the Arc that I actually discovered I had a UTMB index. I didn't even know I had one. I've done quite a lot of racing in Europe over the years, and actually so many of those events were UTMB kind of counters. So I had a few points, which fortunately got me into the first wave. And I thought it was a good experience. And I know, the UTMB acquisition of the Arc kind of caused a few ruffles in the kind of trail running community, particularly in Cornwall. But I guess as an event professional, if I look at what they have there, they've got firstly a brilliant course, and that has to be the bedrock of any event. They've got a really engaged local community, loads of volunteers, great supporting on the route. They have all the kind of core elements of a good event plan from the years that Fergie, Jane and Andy have done to build that event. And then the UTMB brand, it's big, it generates lots of entries. I think they've got the opportunity to create a really, really amazing event there, and want to wish them absolutely the best of luck with it. And I think, this year the numbers doubled in size, so there was a few logistical problems, but most events have logistical problems.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Pretty much the norm, isn't it?
Both guests we had on, Leroy and Lewis, are both pre and post acquisition, and they weren't, it had changed, but they weren't critical of the whole event. But do you find as a RD, you go to these events, but you're always working, you're kind of thinking, I don't like that, I do like that, taking things back for your own events?
Yeah, I do. I definitely find that. And it's actually one of the reasons I don't do many events, because I don't find it a particularly relaxing environment. Generally speaking, it's very hard when you're constantly looking at things with two kind of like two sets of glasses. You're there as a participant, you just want to not think about what's going on and enjoy yourself. And then at the same time, you're looking at the operations of the event and going, oh, that's good, we could do that. Yeah. Or the opposite, thinking, oh, I wouldn't do that.
It's going to backfire. You had a bit of a crack team with you, Shane, down there, of Trish and Robyn crewing you. Trish has crewed me before. She runs a tight ship. There's a lot of love, but it's shown in a way that is like, you get in, you get out. We don't need to chat. How was it? Was it fun?
It was brilliant. I mean, that crew was like 11 out of 10 brilliant. Could not fault them. Well, actually, that's not true. I could fault them. They did eat mine and Zoe's food at various points.
No.
And they fell asleep when we went past them at one point.
We're under a bus.
So maybe my 11 out of 10 rating is a bit generous.
To be fair, Robyn was kind of fresh off the spine. She was probably a little bit weary too. We'll give her the credit for that. But Trish, she should have done better. What snacks did they eat? That's what I'm interested in.
Well, I had some kind of, I think they're Nairn, like little biscuits, and they ate most of them.
Oh, they are good those, because especially if you're having a cup of tea and it's like 2 a.m.
So I ran past them at one point, and they were in the car. They hadn't noticed me. They had cups of tea on their lap and they were eating the biscuit.
I would have been
raging.
When they say they hadn't noticed you, they were like, "It'll be all right. He says, just finish our tea. It'll be all right."
Zoe Murphy was also part of the gang. When she ran past them at the same point, maybe an hour or so behind me, they were fast asleep.
This is a shambles. Going to scratch them off my crew list.
We know it wasn't. We know it.
No, it was brilliant. They were absolutely awesome. Yeah, really good.
I need to know some dates. So I've looked, as I mentioned earlier, I've looked at the checkpoint splits. It does look like a controlled race. Yeah, you shipped a couple of places right at the very end, but fundamentally you started in 28th, the first at Port 11, yeah. Sorry, and then at the finish there, you crossed the line in 21st.
Yeah, what's not obvious in those splits is that on my way to Port 11, about 10 or 15k in, at Cadgwith, actually just before Cadgwith, I think that's about 15k in, about a kilometre out from that village, my tummy suddenly did like a backflip, and I was like, oh my goodness, I need a bush. And then I was like, I can get to Cadgwith, and I used the public loos there, and I was in the loo for somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. So at that point, I had no idea where I was position-wise in the race, which makes me think more than anything else, I was going way, way too fast over those first 15k, because I would have been relatively close to the front. It was actually fantastic not knowing where I was, because I quickly got into a mindset, I must be, 50th, 60th, that was my kind of guess. Then Saturday morning at about 10 a.m, a couple of hours before I finished, I phoned my wife Heather and I was like, hey, good morning, how are you doing today? And she's like, oh, you're doing really well, you're in 19th at the moment. Like, oh, I had no idea.
Oh, that's nice. 19th and then not 90th where you thought.
Yeah, and I lost a few more places over the next hour, and I think I can't remember his name, but the guy who was the first V45, same category as me, he ran past me at that point, and it was fine. He just ran past me so well, and he just looked really strong, and I was like, fair play, you've paced that very well.
Yeah. Did you know he was a V45 then?
I didn't know, but it was a fair guess and it was right. So it was fine. I'm very, very, very happy with the result. It was kind of a bit of proof of concept for me, and we'll see where we go next.
Would you go back again, do the race again?
I wouldn't rule it out, but I tend to like to do a race once and move on and do something else. I like to just have that broad sense of lots of different races in the UK and Europe.
Will you use your UTMB rocks for a UTMB event?
Got no plans.
No.
Another UTMB event at this point in time, but who knows what will be in the future. Headline for me, I would absolutely recommend it if somebody else wanted to do it. So it was a good event.
They've had pretty good weather the last couple of years. They haven't. I'm waiting for a really horrific year, but definitely the last 2 to 3 years seems to have been. There's been rain, there's been wind, but there hasn't been a named storm.
Well, you say that, but this year we had a named storm.
Was it the day before?
Yeah, Thursday during the day and Thursday night. 36 hours of the race was pretty good weather, and then they had another named storm on Sunday, and I know a lot of the crew who were working on the event, and actually some of the team from Shelterstone, that's another conversation, but that's another business I have, were working on the event. They saw firsthand how tough the weather was. It was really, really difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Oh, well, kudos, well done. Tick. We look forward to seeing you strutting around at the Tea Trails Ultra in your belt buckle.
I would be. That's exactly. If I had a black buckle, wow, yeah, 24/7, I'd be.
You'd have a necklace like a choker.
Well, yeah, that brings us on nicely to the Tea Trails Ultra. I've organised for a local running club. I was part of a team that organised Hampsley Trail Marathon for a few years. And it was just a community, small event. So I've got a little tiny bit of knowledge of dealing with one landowner. It was the Forestry Commission, I think. So it was all pretty self-enclosed. I wasn't going to multiple bits of land. But yeah, it was completely different to having a physical event with vendors and entertainment and camping. Where do you start organising an event like this? And yeah, was it your idea? Whose idea was it?
That's a really good question. The idea for Tea and Trails Ultra, I think I came to you with the initial suggestion, but like all good ideas, it becomes collaboration very quickly. So there's lots of people, the team at Ourea Events who have filtered into this. Both of you guys have added a lot to it. Where do you start? It's always a little bit tricky because often when you speak to stakeholders, and I'm going to include landowners, agencies like Natural England, community groups, graziers, and you ask them, let's say 10 months out about an event, they're not interested. It's not important to them. They don't care. Yet at the same time, they always kind of say, we have to ask early. Quite often you get, let's say, permission from one stakeholder, and that leads to the permission from the next stakeholder, and trying to get them to line up in the right order there's definitely an art to that. And quite often you find, I would say almost universally with events, you find that you get 80% of your stakeholders who have said, yes, that's great, we're happy, and 20% who have not responded to any communications. And you got this very tricky commercial decision where you have to say, are we in a good enough place to go live with this and promote the event with some risk that we haven't got everything signed off? Because if you waited for everything to be signed off, you'd never open the entries. Some years ago, we had a very difficult conversation with negotiation with one of the landowners for Skyline Scotland. They only agreed and signed the license for us to access the land the day before the race.
Oh my goodness, I couldn't sleep at night.
So that's kind of proper brinkmanship to be in that.
Yeah.
You don't have to answer this. Yeah. We can edit this out. But do you have to pay to use the land?
No, it's a very good question, and I think it's happy for it to be included. I think it should be included. So it's a very hybrid approach. So, and the legislation in England and Wales is different to Scotland. As an example, if you are using a public right-of-way in England and Wales, and you place 0 signs or waymarking or infrastructure, you absolutely should not be paying anybody for that. Take a flip side, go back to Skyline Scotland. We are putting 2,500 people into the Ben Nevis Triple SI on one date. We're putting, infrastructure, signage, 4x4 vehicle access into the mountains. You absolutely need consent, and not just consent, but the active cooperation of the landowners to achieve that. And yes, money changes hands to make that happen. And everything in between. Those are the two ends of the spectrum. What you generally find is a lot of events, particularly smaller club events, do no permission work. They just do it. And nobody notices and nobody generally cares. When you make the jump in scale to be a professional organisation, you need long-term partnerships and relationships with landowners, stakeholders. You generally have to take a very different, more consultative approach to how you deal with everybody.
We had to pay Hampsley Forest for every participant. We had to pay them. Goodness me, it was a few quid, 2 or 3 quid, I can't remember. But it really triggered me that people take a part in the event still had to pay for parking. But then you could turn up on your mountain bike, pay for parking, and just go and use all the same trails that we were. And then another thing that triggered me, quite a few times mountain bikers would injure themselves and lean on our medical support. So we're providing medical support for Hampsley Forest, and we were paying to do that. It really did annoy me. It's fascinating. Yeah, there is, I suppose, like you say, depending on how you're dealing with who the landowner is, but yeah, definitely there's money changed hands. And that was just for a community fundraising event.
It's a complicated area. And different event organisers, from your volunteer fell race organiser with 50 people on a Wednesday night, take a radically different approach to, let's go back to Skyline Scotland as an example, with thousands of participants.
Yeah.
You have a different approach for different events, different organisers. But generally speaking, I think I'm going to generalise. I think a lot of event organisers do a poor job with their consultations.
Something like the Northern Traverse, where your participants are covering hundreds of miles,
yes.
But it's not marked. Do you let every landowner know then that you're running an event through?
Again, it depends on the landowner, the scale. So Northern Traverse is a great example. So first of all, it's a national walking route. 99% of the entire route is on public rights of way. There are no signage. So our starting position is we are taking access on this date. Is there anything that would cause you a problem? Can we mitigate that? And actually, as I guess a good example, imagine the Northern Traverse, the Wainwright coast to coast at places, it will go through someone's farmyard. So we know that we'll have runners going through there 24 hours a day for 2 days. That is a stakeholder that you want to knock on the door, have a chat with. Some of them we're totally happy, no problem. Some of them, that's a real problem. And you might choose to deviate around that farm.
I think there were a couple of those, weren't there, where you were like, don't go through that farm.
Yeah, so it's about putting in the legwork to understand the route. If we're on a public right of way through access land, there's obviously no, reasonable problem that we will cause to a landowner. Are we going to ask their permission? No. Will we drop them a little note saying, for your information, this is what's going on?
They're not tramps if you see the people passing through.
Yeah, every event is slightly different. And I guess going back to the difference between that smaller organisation and a professional organisation, we tend to do a bit more on those consultations because we need to come back the next year, year after. And even if you're absolutely right, like legally right in how you choose to take access, the landowner doesn't like you, they will make life very, very difficult for you. And we've seen that with, just the farmer leaving his dogs out in a farmyard. And there might be a public right of way through the farmyard, but if the 6 collies that want to kill you are running around the farmyard, that's going to impact your event.
Yeah.
Good consultation is generally the right answer.
Should we talk about how we went about planning the TEA10 Trails Ultra route? Because there was about 3 or 4 conversations, wasn't there? Various routes discussed. I stepped back and just listened because I don't know the Northern Fells really at all. Where did we come up with the idea? What is the sort of idea behind this? Because there's 2 separate routes.
Mm-hmm. So it's effectively like a figure of 8, like a butterfly loop, which allows the shorter and the longer version. That we thought was important from making the event kind of accessible for the widest range of runners. We also wanted to create something, the phrase that I was thinking about this before we started recording, it's mountain trails. This is not a fell race. We wanted the route to be on good trails for the duration, but at the same time, we wanted to go over some mountain summits. We decided pretty early on we wanted to be in the Lake District. We started kicking around ideas. If you've got lots of knowledge and experience of a local area, you very quickly get steered into certain areas. And we toyed with some ideas in the Central Lakes. But very quickly we settled on doing something in the Northern Fells. And once you get to that point, the next thing you want to do is maybe some light touch discussions with those stakeholders. Is this going to fly, basically? Or is there another event on the same weekend? Or is there something that could be a showstopper for you? And there's always many revisions of the courses, and you saw that as we went through that process. Here, let's share another GPX. Have you seen it? That's very normal, and it comes from the reality of often your first plan is desk based, and you might know some of the trails, but you haven't linked them together, and there'll be a kilometre there that you haven't been on, and you'll go. You do your planning and you think, this seems to make sense. Then you get on the ground and you go, actually, we could make this better. And this kind of refinement of the idea. And as we found with TEA10 Trails, what suddenly did a shift for us, we found a really good event centre, not the one we're using, but that would have shifted the orientation of the routes and changed the flow of how we're doing. The kind of core principles not changed. And then I just had this nagging feeling that event centre wasn't fit for purpose in the long term. And we do want this event to be popular. We do want to think about, how do you park 1,000 cars? Let's think big about the future. And that event centre just wasn't going to work for that. And it's much better to make that change now before you do your first event. So we made that change quite late in the day. So we have a really great event centre just on kind of the outskirts of Keswick. So it's easy to drive to, giant flat field, capacity for us to grow, and a landowner who's really supportive. So it's got all the ingredients for us to be able to, it's the building blocks of a good event. And if you don't solve those things at the start, then the event falls apart. And you see that so often with, as a good example, you see like a local fell race, absolutely fantastic course, really good, but there is literally no parking. So all the cars just park on the road and on the verge. An event professional, you think, what would happen if there was a road traffic collision here? Because the organizer has done this event for years. The cars always park on the road. There's a very obvious risk. Is this predictable? Yes. Who's going to be responsible if a child gets killed? That's kind of pretty extreme thinking. And that's one of the reasons, going back to the earlier conversation, I walk around an event and I'm like, who's holding the liability for this decision should it go wrong? And often, most of the time, things don't go wrong. You don't want to be holding that hot potato if it goes wrong.
The other thing when we were planning was we wanted the checkpoints to be like not too far apart. That was a big thing. We were like, if people are coming and doing their first trail race, we've all been there where you leave a checkpoint and they go, the next one is in 64 miles. And we were like, well, the last thing we want people, it to be like in your head, a workable, like, yes, I can do that. That's an easy. So that was another reason when we were planning, wasn't it? That was we wanted to be able to get the infrastructure to the checkpoint, so it wasn't just a bourbon and a.
We definitely need to do cups of tea, don't we?
Oh my gosh!
And cheese and pickle sandwiches.
Cheese and pickle.
That's minimum requirement.
That's in my DMs every day. Are there going to be cheese and pickle sandwiches at the checkpoints?
There are. Yeah.
And vegan ones. Don't worry, it's all catered.
Yeah, we'll do the full cater for most people. So yeah, in terms of the checkpoints, we've got two aid stations. One of them is at Skiddaw House, which is a fantastically remote private. I think it used to be a YHA, and I think it's now a private hostel. That will be one of the aid stations, and you can only access that with a long, 6-kilometre 4x4 journey. So getting our infrastructure into there is not an insignificant challenge. Then the other aid station is at Mungrisdale Village Hall. It's a brilliant village hall, which we've used for other events in the long distance past. And the great thing about Mungrisdale is if you sadly have to drop out at that point, you're opposite the pub.
We didn't go to the pub, but it looks a really nice pub.
It looks lovely.
Yeah, so... if you need to drop out at either of those locations, we will provide transport back to the event centre.
Back to HUGS.
Yeah, back to HUGS, exactly.
You have to personally call us, though, as well, if you are dropping out, and we will just check that the decision is a wise one. It's part of your race entry.
Is there some scope? I had a friend, forgive me if I've got the summit wrong. You've got Skiddaw, and then is it Lower Man near Skiddaw? Could you do Lower Man if you wanted to on the day?
Are we redesigning the course at the moment?
Yeah, I've had a few people say, because basically a Wainwright, so if you're chasing Wainwrights, then maybe you could just do that.
Well, we could. Maybe that's an off-air discussion about how we optimise the route.
Optional Wainwright bagging.
I guess I tell you what my thinking is. I think for a trail race, essentially, it might be mountains, but this is a trail race. I think participants have a low tolerance for adding in extra for the sake of it. So an out and back, you've got to have a really good reason to do an out and back. But we do one on the race, and that's to go to the summit of Skiddaw. That's a really good reason. That you can't be 200 metres from the summit and not go.
And also, I like that. There is nice to have a few pinch points in a race where you are going to see people people will be coming down. They'll be like, they're running downhill. They'll be really happy. You'll be going up really sad because you've just done a big climb, but you're almost at the top. And it's just, I like that little bit of interaction. It's lovely. And if you are a little bit competitive as well, you can also you maybe see a couple of people, they look awful. I take their soul. It's like, I'm done. I like that sort of thing. What I hate is an out and back to a checkpoint, which is like 8K out on the road to a checkpoint and then turn around and you're running back again. And that is in Saint-Élion, they do that and they take you into a village and they put you down a funnel for about 2K and you can't overtake. And it's like the end of a old school cross country into a sport, and the death march is coming back out, and it feels like cattle herding. It's awful.
That doesn't sound great. I think with the Teen Trails Ultra, if somebody wants to add in the Wainwright on Man, well done, good luck to them. And my approach with as long as they're not shortcutting the course, they're not making their life easier, gaining, the phrase I always use as a race organizer, is an unfair advantage, then I'm going to take a pretty relaxed approach to that. This whole weekend was always about bringing the community together, having fun, shared experience, the banter, the live recording of Tea and Trails, all wrapped around a race. So I think it's important, this is not, a world championship race. We'll take as long as it's safe and as long as nobody's cheating, gaining the unfair advantage, I think I don't mind if they add in some extra something.
I don't think you're cheating going up to Lower Manor. I think that's
Will people be wearing trackers on the race? Shane?
They will. Yeah, they will.
That might be quite an exciting. Some people might never have been able to be dot watched or to watch dots as well. So that's really exciting. That
I think trackers are so good. First of all, they add a level of interaction for friends and family at home and participants who have finished and seeing where their friends are. It just adds so much to an event. From a safety management perspective, they add so much to the safety of the participants. And, I know James Thurlow at Open Tracking really well, and we've spoken about this so often, trackers save lives, full stop. They are an amazing tool for ensuring that participants stay safe. And I think for us as, a professional event company, it's a really hard decision to choose not to put trackers on participants, particularly when they go into the mountains. For sure, we don't put trackers on runners at the Adidas Trail Run at Kendal Mountain Festival. That's 10k of trail running around Kendal Hills. You don't need it. For Tea and Trails, they're going to go over some high fells. They're going to be on the summit of Skiddaw, on the summit of Blencathra, very remote in the middle of those northern fells. The other benefit of the tracker or giving people insulated jackets is if your starting point as a race organizer has that level of safety built into it, it allows you to make quite robust decisions to go ahead with the event when the weather is marginal. And I'm always, as a race organizer, I want to go ahead with the event, and I have quite a high threshold for the risk I'm prepared to absorb on behalf of the participants. But that's because we've thought through these things. We have trackers on them. We know they've all got waterproof jackets and a spare warm layer. We have our response team that goes out and rescues people. And, almost every event they go out and rescue someone. And it's a whole layer of almost invisibility within the event planning that gives you kind of redundancy and robustness and allows you to go ahead when the weather is poor.
What sort of response team will we have? What are we looking at? Just because, as you know, my kids are obsessed as well with mountain rescue and 911 emergency. They're going to want to know. What are we looking?
If you ever bring them to Kendal, I'll give them the tour of the Kendal Mountains.
Oh my God!
Oh, I'm coming.
This is their dream.
Let's kind of go back in time. So the response team for Ourea Events was something that developed very organically from originally almost 10 years ago. Volunteers who we had at our events who were also mountain rescue team members, and we developed this ability to do essentially a mountain rescue style response to incidents on our course. So we have developed that process over many, many years, and we now have a fully professional response team. They usually operate as 2 or 3 person teams, depending on the event and the nature of the risk. To work on these teams, you have to be an experienced mountain rescue team member. That is the starting point. And actually, we ask for other qualifications beyond that. If I look at a typical 3 person team, we'd normally have a mountain rescue doctor or healthcare professional like a paramedic, coupled with somebody that we would call like a leader, somebody who's like a deputy team leader of a team, plus someone who's a mountaineer. Often these are people
a bit of brawn.
Yeah, well,
team.
Just technical skills. Often these are people who might be a winter mountaineering and climbing instructor, and all of them will be mountain rescue team members. So these are incredibly experienced and capable people. And what they allow us to do is when those inevitable accidents happen at an event, which are entirely predictable, rather than the only option for an event organizer to phone mountain rescue. And I don't think it's a reasonable approach if you're organizing an event, particularly for commercial gain, that you just default to the emergency services the moment something goes wrong. So this team can respond to incidents on the hill. They're kind of like an all-weather, all-terrain team. It means for the lower grade injuries, we can normally deal with that in-house. So your ankle sprains and strains and the cuts and bruises, even, kind of the more simple fractures, we're normally able to, with our very competent team, rescue them ourselves. And if it's more serious, because we're instantly deployable, because the participants have trackers on and we know where to send our teams, we will be on scene often an hour before a local mountain rescue team can respond to an incident. So it just, again, going back to having a robust event, it allows you to go forward, deliver that event when the weather's a bit marginal and maybe another organizer might choose to pull it. And I'm like, actually, I've got layers of safety built into this event, and it's all invisible. Unless you need that service, it's all invisible within.
But it's not invisible, Shane, because I've done your events and I've pushed myself to the edge, knowing that safety support is there. Like, you can do it because you've got your tracker on your shoulder, and I totally trust in your event that if you say to me, "It's safe, Eddie, off you go," or "We're watching you," I want this to come across up. You can just then go and enjoy it. You don't need to think about it, because in the back of your mind, if anything happened, I know somebody's watching my tracker, and I know also that if anything happened to me, somebody would be able to, I can put myself in that place. Obviously, we don't want people to put themselves in that place for our TEA Trials. Lovely ultra.
No, that's not what we're trying to do. This is not the spine,
But that invisible infrastructure, though you say is invisible, actually, I think it does give participants the...
But I've looked at, when I've heard that about, say, Spine Race, Northern Traverse, because people are watching that tracker, they might call a participant and just check in with them, like, are you okay? They might have just kind of nodded off on a bench for 10 minutes. But yeah, quite often you hear little stories, little anecdotes of when the race team have contacted them. Can we talk about the entry fee?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, £150. It does sound like a lot of money, and I'm not driving around in my Mercedes G-Wagon. I don't think you are, Shane. Where?
I'd love to see that with your belt buckles on. Oh yeah, we're just cruising around Keswick.
I think my battered old van is 15 years old, so there you go.
Yeah. Well, where's the spread of the money? Where does the money go, the entry fee go?
I think let's talk about principles first of all. So you can do a brilliant local trail race for £5 in the lakes on a Wednesday night. The course will be great. You'll have a great time. We're not trying to do that. We are trying to create an event that is special and has atmosphere, and it's something that you will think about for a year or so or longer afterwards, and you go, that was a brilliant weekend. As a commercial organizer, we're often questioned about the cost of our events. It's a pretty common, complaint. And I would say they are not cheap, but they are brilliant value for money. I'm very, very conscious that not everyone can afford, think about a Dragon's Back entry, this is expensive. We have a really robust system where people can come and volunteer at our events. They get race credits and they can do races for free. So I'm very passionate that kind of regardless of what your financial situation is, there is a way for you to come to the events and participate. I think with the TEA Trails weekend, what we wanted to do was wrap up the whole weekend as one package. And that's what drove the pricing. So it's kind of the 2 nights of camping, it's the parking, it's the race, it's the whole safety team we've just been talking about, it's the timing and the tracking. It's all of that in one package. And I think if you were to come to the lakes and book into a campsite for two nights, pay for your parking. Let's say you go to the cinema on your Saturday night, we're going to be doing the live podcast, and you did a race. I think you'd spend that much money. It's just one number. I think also there's just such a giant difference between, that small volunteer-led event where everyone's working for free and a professional team. And if you just think what you might pay a mechanic per hour to do your MOT on your car and take those numbers, think about the 11 permanent staff we have working year-round at Ourea Events. There is a cost to having professionalism. That's how the prices are built up, and we're certainly not trying to profiteer in anything we do. Actually, far from it. We're often looking at the prices of our events going, really, actually, can we make this a little bit cheaper? Yeah, it's a really tough competitive market. There are a lot of very, very good events out there. Maybe to give people a bit of a vision in terms of an event that they can think about. I was supporting some friends at Lakeland 100 last year, and I think if you've been to Lakeland 100, you know what that atmosphere is like, of bringing the community together, the prize giving, and the whole wraparound stuff that you experience as somebody there. That's what the vision is for the Tea and Trails Ultra. It's you come for an amazing weekend in the Lake District with your friends. You have the opportunity, or we are facilitating that social interaction. So there's a lot going on. And if you want to, pay a team, rent a field, pay the farmers, pay the landowners, put in a safety team, do the tracking, do the timing, provide the marquees, all of these things.
Even to things like that I hadn't really. Every time we talk, we have a meeting about this. I meet somebody new on your team, Shane. You turn the computer around and go, Eddie, can you stop swearing? Because there's 18 other people in this office. But even the things like all the sound equipment, and all sorts of things that I never even thought of that we are learning.
If people are on the fence, don't underestimate that, what Shane's saying there, that atmosphere, that recreating this atmosphere, say, similar to the Lakeland 100. It's not a coincidence. I've been back to the Lakeland 100. We're chasing them off Slate, going back 5 times now. And it's not just the race itself, it is the whole event. And that's going back from 2017. So yeah, it's been a long love affair with that race. Supporting it, cheering friends along and going along to the presentation and the event too. It's it's pretty special.
I think maybe the headline for me here is, whilst we do get questioned about the price of our events, it's by people who haven't taken part. I can't recall a single incident of somebody who's come to one of our events, had a good time, and then gone back and retrospectively said, oh, that was expensive. They've gone, that was brilliant money, and I had value for money, and I've had a great time. That's the benchmark for me. And
volunteer too. That was my gateway into the Lakeland 100. I volunteered at Howtown one year with the Chi Charge team. I imagine this is pretty similar, your experience with the Dragon's Back race, Shane. People cherish that place even more.
Absolutely.
They chased it for maybe 2 or 3 years to get the credits to enter the race.
Totally. And I think actually the Dragon's Back is a brilliant example. So there is the best part of the 100 volunteers on that event and about 50 professional staff. That's the kind of rough makeup. Within that volunteer crew, you can kind of roughly divide them into thirds. There's the third whose hobby is volunteering. So that's what they do. And they are amazing because, they just, they bring so much experience. There's the third that are gaining race credits, and they will come to the event. They will do it once as a volunteer because they want to take part next year. And those runners, they are so valuable to us because they're so passionate about supporting the other runners, and they want the runners that year to have a brilliant time because that's what they want to have themselves the following year. And they just form these amazing relationships and friendships. They then go out wrecking the race route together in the kind of the months, the year ahead. And it's just amazing. I mean, I have personally formed incredibly strong friendships with people I have met through the races like that.
Look at you and me, Shane, this beautiful relationship.
Oh, of course. No better example.
Well, the Dragon's Back race WhatsApp group that I was part of back in 2023 is still active today. So you make friends.
Yeah, you do. And when you go back to where is the value in an event, it's in things like that. It's the fact that you build, lifelong friendships and relationships, and it's the weekends away wrecking, and it's the preparation, and it's the banter around the event. It's about being excited that you're going to be coming together as a group. And that's the priceless bit of any event that's doing well.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm definitely going to enter.
I've got goosebumps.
I've got goosebumps. Can't wait.
It's going to be brilliant. I mean, it's going to be absolutely brilliant. And I'm so excited about it. And I think we've got some great courses. They're tough courses. Having been out on them a few times now, I'm like, these are
spicy. But I wouldn't want I don't want anybody shortchanged. I want them to come back in with, I want them hobbling round the next day.
Yeah. So Heather, my wife, she ran the 30K route a couple of weeks ago. She was like, it really is a route of two halves because it lulls you into this false sense of security with these lovely, it's got a start climbing up to the trig. And then it's got that lovely kind of undulating trail to Skiddaw House. And you're round to the back of the Northern Fells, and suddenly you've got this big climb.
That is a monster. That is a monster.
Yeah. It's the best part of 1,000-meter climb.
Yeah.
Guys, do your step ups, work your glutes before this race, do your calf raises.
Absolutely. And then you're coming downhill. So the last, whatever it is, 6-7 kilometers, but more actually, probably 10 kilometers. It's downhill, like almost every step. I mean, it's a fast finish. You're going to need strong quads.
I'm going to put signs up halfway up that.
It's only 30K. You can wing it.
Did you do your strength work? Did you do your strength work? Now you're regretting it, aren't you?
Breathe and believe.
Oh, we can't wait, Shane. We're so excited. We are very privileged for you to take a punt on us. And we can't wait with mixture of nervous anticipation for the weekend. And it will be brilliant. He keeps telling us it will be brilliant. It will be brilliant.
So go over to www.TEA10 Ultra. Also, you can go to teaandtrails.com. We've got a link over there. Go and check it out. Yeah. Watch a middle-aged man die on stage in Eddie, save his life, and have an awesome day on the trails too.
That live podcast recording is just going to be wild.
We're not releasing it yet because we're going to do some teasers, but we've got 4 guests for it. It's going to be, this podcast could take about 5 hours, but we have got 4 guests who are very personal to the podcast. Is that the right word to use? But they are all been on the podcast before, all been top stars, returning all stars. So we've got an all-star cast as well that are going to support us and be around all the weekend as well. So that's really exciting too.
And it's not just the race. You've got Jacob Tonkin with his film George. Harrier Trail Runner are going to be there with pole demonstrations. I've reached out to Run Like a Haggis to do some navigation courses too. So there's lots of things to do. And we've said it a few times. Yeah, you could be taking part in the race and your friends and family could be in your car. So yeah, you can all camp together and make a good weekend of it.
That's probably a very good point. It is the parking and camping is for your car. So you have one person in the car doing the race. You could have, family and friends who come for the weekend.
I reckon you could get 10 people in a 4-seater.
I've got no excuse for not doing a navigation course. If Fran's going to be there showing us what to do, surely I should dust off the compass. Should we do the quick 5?
Yeah, let's do it.
Suddenly feeling nervous.
These are good ones.
Oh, I never know which way I'll go with this. It ebbs and flows all the time. But yeah, do you have a favourite season of the year?
Winter.
Ooh.
Really? Oh my God. I cannot wait to get out of winter. What is good about winter, Shane?
I love the darkness.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's quite deep.
Okay, all right. We're here for you.
Every season has its moments, but that when you see the green shoots, a lovely belter, crisp blue sky winter day. You can't.
That's like one day in the 100 days of winter. Yeah. But Shane loves it. Someone has to, like all these things.
I'm going to turn up, Shane, at Ourea Towers with a tray of donuts. What flavour? What's your favourite flavour of donut?
Let's keep it simple, jam.
Jammy donuts.
Did you used to do that thing where you ate the donut, but you weren't allowed to lick your lips or your fingers or anything?
Or suck the jam out.
Let's play some donut. Let's get some trays of donuts for Team Trails Ultra at the finish line. Donuts.
That could be one of the games.
I'm writing that down as we speak.
How many donuts? We could have a competition on the stage. How many donuts can Shane Ohly eat in a minute?
Quite a lot, I reckon.
I reckon 5. We'll put you up against Bryn. That would be he would.
I don't do my top button and just ease into it. Incredible.
Undo your belt buckle.
Oh, Paul Taney sent over his workout for the week, Shane. Do you have a favourite workout and your least favourite workout?
That's really simple. So I always struggle to get the motivation to go indoors to the gym, but I have seen the value in that strength and conditioning over the last 18 months. Favourite workout will be the longest workout of the week, no question.
For your arc training, would you do back-to-back runs over the weekend or wherever you could fit them in?
So my ARC training was largely non-existent, if I'm honest. A terrible build-up. But yeah, I love back-to-back stuff. I mean, there's different schools of thought in terms of how you optimize your coaching and your performance, but actually just the pure pleasure of back-to-back long runs, particularly with your friends on the weekend, for me outweighs the benefit of potentially optimizing the training in other ways. So I love them.
Pleasure training. You can't put price on pleasure training in any form. Love it.
Joy miles.
Joy miles.
Do you have a favourite Lake District fell or peak?
Wainwright.
Question. Helvellyn is lovely. I love, it's a wonderful mountain.
It's a belter.
Hell's good. I know I've not really thought about that before.
I like Steeple. That leg 4. I love the leg 4 of Bog Graham.
Yeah, Steeple, another great example. I quite like Pillar, actually. What about Pillar?
Pillar's good.
Pillar. I love the climbing on Pillar. It's such complex kind of rock architecture. I think with my climbing hat on, it's a wonderful place.
I probably left the most blood on Steeple out of any part of the Lake District. Instagram story music time, Shane. Yeah, you get the choice. What's our Instagram story song going to be?
Oh, God, I don't know. I'm not on Instagram.
Favourite song? Do you have a playlist? What's on your iTunes or Spotify?
I do have a playlist.
Otherwise, we'll ask Trish and Robyn and they'll put something
I tell you what, ask Trish and Robyn to choose a song for me.
Okay.
And what they'll choose. It was the song. I'm going to make a bet. It's the song when I last did a pod with you that I chose. It's
we can
that's the one, Blinded by the Light.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. One moment. I'm going into my little playlist.
Oh, Shane's playlist. I'd like to see what that's like.
It's The Weekend.
Oh, The Weekend. Of course it is. Yeah.
Blinding Lights. Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So there you go. They'll choose that again. I'm choosing the same song again.
Okay. Next time, there'll be a next time, I'm sure. Let's branch out your musical choices a little bit. Delve into that playlist.
That's your homework for next time.
That's your homework. Shane, we're looking forward to seeing you. I know Gary's going to see you very soon at your screening of your film. And we're looking forward to coming down very soon and organising another recce. Thank you for everything you've done for Tea and Trails Ultra so far. We're looking forward to the next couple of months of carrying on planning, and good luck with your recovery in your legs as well. Sounds like you're already flying along. Yeah, we can't wait for the race, and also we can't wait for the Lakeland 100 Smackdown. I'm going to get you both on the pod afterwards.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having me on again. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks,
Shane. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, I did. It's like you say, it's always a school day. And I'll be seeing Shane too. I'm off to the Lake District to watch his Dragons Back FKT movie end of the month. Can't wait. Stoked to have Harrier Trail Running as our Strava Club and Tales from the Trail sponsor. Harrier is the UK's fastest growing brand for trail runners, providing specialist kit designed for superior fit, comfort and function with the best customer support. Check them out for race vests, waterproof, poles and other trail essentials at www.harrierrunfree.co.uk, where you can also download where you can also download your free copy of How to Run an Ultra Guide and use the code TEA10 for 10% off site-wide, or check out their brilliant trail bundles for a special 20% off. Yeah, last week you talked about your Baslo waist belt. Well, I've been using the Harrier Kuba 5 trail vest. I initially started using this as my daily commuter. Like you said last week, you get your phone in, you get a bit of nutrition, you get your poo bags, keys, all that kind of stuff. But the past 3 weeks on the moves, I've been taking that as my race vest. Although it says it's only 5 litres of storage, it's quite stretchy at the back too. So I can put in my waterproof jacket, I can get my waterproof trousers, I can get a bivy bag in there, I can get my first aid kit, I can get a phone, 2 soft flasks, I've got a litre of fluid and lots of snacks for the trails too. Yeah, it's served me really well, and there's more room to spare. So we were out for 5 hours, so that kind of gives you an idea of how much sugar I was carrying and kit. Yeah, really impressed. And I've also got the Kinder 10 litre vest, which is probably what I will be using for the Lake 100 because the kit list is a little bit bigger. So I should be taking that for a spin soon too. Lots of requests to follow over on Strava, but I do feel it's our duty to share these achievements regardless if they're a request to follow or not. First up, though, is Emma O'Rourke. 64.6 miles, longest run of 28.2, total elevation, 7,815 feet of vert. But Emma's been doing West Highland Way race, 3-day recce. Oh, goodness me.
Oh, jealous of that. Jealous of that.
Love that. All these recce's, I saw West Highland Way race, that popped up on my social media. Lakeland 100, when they do their recce's, it's something that I never do because I feel, I know the Lakeland 100 route, I don't need to do that. But the social aspect, I think Glenn, one of my friends, he said there was like 4 buses. It would have been like an event in itself.
Yeah.
Sounds great, but yeah, well done, Emma. Next up, Jennifer Parsons. I'm really curious what Jennifer did because I'm struggling to think what that race would be for the weekend. There was a NAV4 race that went on, which was slightly longer than that. So hopefully that wasn't a DNF, maybe just a Garmin or a Suntour glitch. But either way, 63.5 miles for the week with the longest run of 63.5 miles. Total elevation, 5,919 feet. But yeah, Jennifer's a request to follow, so I can't find out any more. Last up is Leo Loco, 62.3 miles for the week. Longest run of 13.1. Total vert, 6,132 feet. Yeah, sorry, Leo. I can't share what you've been up to. Request to follow. Heavy Flex. Yeah, I thought I would give this week's Heavy Flex to the team over at Punk Panther for putting on what looked like a splendid day on the trails. I saw a picture of their menu over on our Facebook group. You could have cheese toasties, chips, cheesy chips, corned beef pasty. A corned beef pasty, that takes me back 35 years. I'm in my grandma's kitchen with all my aunties and uncles around me. It is that was the staple of my childhood. 10 bean chili, gluten-free and vegan. And you can have plant-based milk too. Kudos to Rick, Mark and the team. And when everyone mentions a cheese toasty, my gold star Lakeland 100, I will get to Tilbuthwaite. Oh, this is a dream. This would be a dream. 22 hours. I've got enough time.
Wow.
It's never good. Yeah, your face immediately. Never done it. I don't even know why I throw these numbers out there because it's like never been anywhere near that. But I could get to the Tilbuthwaite so early I can enjoy a cheese toasty before I shuffle up Jacob's Ladder for the last stretch of the Lakeland 100. Heavy Flex. Come on, guys. If you know somebody that has been flexing, you don't want me trawling Facebook to find out what's been going on. Yeah, share the news. If you know someone who's flexed or maybe you've been flexing, then please let us know. This is your opportunity to big up a mate or even yourself. Email in hello@teaandtrails.com and pop Heavy Flex as a subject. Tales from the trails.
Hi. Just to say thank you for the birthday wishes and answering my question about training with my speedy training partner. Myself and Rachel completed the Arc 100. Clapping emoji. It was brutal, but a memorable experience. Topped off with the podcast feature. I'm glad that hopefully that was even bigger than finishing your 100-mile race. Much appreciated. We are both signed up for the Tea and Trail Ultra Weekend. Yay. Hope to meet you then. Kind regards, Louise Brookwell. Oh, it's lovely that you messaged in, Louise. Multiple kudos for finishing, to you and Rachel for completing the Arc 100. Amazing.
Give me your best hot reviews, Eddie.
Hot review. Dear Eddie and Gary. No, I'm not reading.
Dear Eddie and Gary.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. You kindly read out a previous email from me in September about my wife who loves your show, loves trail running, but had a plantar plate tear last year, which stopped her from running. Thanks so much for reading it out. It really made her day. Unfortunately, she's had more bad luck, now suffering from a hamstring tear, and has had to withdraw from the Arc and the UTS races, having withdrawn from the race of the Stones last summer as well. Jill is slowly on the mend and is hoping she'll be able to run again in the near future. Since being told about the tear, she's gone back into swimming and following a strength programme set by the physio, but it's clear she desperately misses the headspace running on trails gives her. She's a wonderful wife and mum to our kids who are both into their running, and I'm hoping we'll be able to share more positive news about her adventures with you someday soon. In the meantime, we listen to your show every week which I really think helps Jill stay motivated to run. The banter is as good as it ever was, and I'd like to say a massive thanks to both of you for producing such a great show. All the best, Martin. Oh, Jill, you have been dealt some heavy cards. Anybody who's had one injury, sometimes you have quite a serious injury. It often then leads into another serious injury as you're compensating. So fingers crossed. It sounds like you're on the journey now. You've got a physio, you're swimming. Things are going to be looking up, and we send you lots of love. Sounds like your husband's a great guy too. And the kids are running too. Oh, you'll be back by the summer. You'll be back.
Knee High 1987. That's probably their date of birth. That makes me feel really old when I say an 87.
87.
5 stars. This podcast is my go-to listen on all my longer training runs. The miles fly by listening to these two legends.
You heard it here.
When does that change though? So we're very blessed that people would say stuff like that, but my kids think I'm a loser. So
I think you're a loser. Here we are.
Oh, this is going to trigger you. Great chemistry.
Oh, yeah.
And a really easy listening with some great knowledge and know-how thrown into. You flatter us, but I will take it. Thanks very much, Knee High 1987. We love your reviews. It does really help the podcast grow, get in front of like-minded people. So please pop over to Spotify, leave a comment, or Apple Podcast and leave a 5-star review and a comment too. Thanks, Protein Rebel, for bringing us home. Whether you're trying to get a PB, training for your first ultra, or going for your Lakeland 100 slate, or your third 200-mile finish. Fourth. Hang on a minute. Spine. Not counting Northern Traverse, are you?
Yeah.
That's not 200 mile.
Okay, when you do Northern Traverse, and what are you going to call it?
195 miles.
Okay, we'll call it that. And I'll say you still not got one.
Protein Rebels products are easy to digest with no artificial additives, providing both performance and overall health benefits. If you would like to try Protein Rebel and use the code TEA10 for 15% off your first order. Our Scarpa competition continues, and to celebrate, Lewis Ryan winning the 2025 Arc of Attrition 100 by UTMB, we have teamed up with Scarpa to offer an incredible Instagram giveaway. We are offering one lucky person the chance to win a pair of their Spin ST shoes, which were used by Lewis Ryan during that race. And to be in the running for this incredible prize, simply pop over Instagram, like this post, share the post to your stories, follow T and Trails and Scarpa _UK, and in the comments say what is your favourite trail. Thanks to everybody who's shared and participated so far. Yeah, it's really great too. Sometimes, I think, I do these trails, and then you do these little competitions and you think, I'd like to check that out. Or maybe I'm going to go back to the moors. The Cleveland Ways come up there a few times. So yeah, really appreciate everybody who has turned up. And like Lewis said, these shoes, you got 7mm lugs. You wouldn't want to do the whole of the arc in them, and Lewis didn't do that, but you got 7mm lugs, you got the vibrant rubber. Just a great shoe if it's a bit soft ground. Terms and conditions do apply, and this competition closes midnight on the 23rd of February 2025. It's for Instagram only, and winners will be contacted by direct message. UK only, 18+.
Oh, I can't enter. Can you remember being 17, 18, Gary? World at your feet.
What's your earliest memory?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. We have a lot of confused memories. Me and my sisters, we laugh a lot because we remember, you might be the same, different big family events differently.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, no, that never happened. Yes, it did. You slapped me across the face and then you broke the video player. I can't remember my earliest memories, but I do that time of year, that 18, you're going, you leave home, you're going off, first bit of freedom, proper freedom.
Oh.
But you get a job, you get past your driving license, like the world is like, but you're still in that sort of safety net. Yeah, you get your first heartbroken, first love.
I think my tonsils, I must have been about 3 years old, I had my tonsils out.
But you click your fingers and it feels like only yesterday, but it's like such a long time ago. It's madness, isn't it? Anyway, that jolly. That jolly. What we got
I was
coming
there, my
up?
little shorts, going up chimneys, little Victorian child. Oh, I governor.
Those butt cheeks never could get up a chimney.
Oh, I can't believe it.
3 200s doing my fourth. Let's just leave it at that. I'm going to add a session in. I still haven't. It's Tuesday. I have done an uphill treadmill, which I kind of count as like a mini session, but it's not really a session. I'm kidding.
If I'd have said that, you'd be like, oh, it's Tuesday now.
But I'm only doing one this week. That's the plan. So I know what I'm going to do. I just haven't found the right time. I thought about it this morning. I put my heart rate monitor on, and then I was like, oh, my legs. So I'm going to do 6x4 or 5x5. Haven't decided again. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that. But I haven't decided anything. But I will get that session done. I think I'm probably going to do it tomorrow because I need to do my long run before the weekend. Oh my God, you guys, there's so much to fit in. Fitting in, especially as you need a couple of recovery days between your session and your long run. It's fitting it all in a week. It's tricky, isn't it? It's tricky. I've done a strength. I'm doing an experiment of one, Gary, for my strength training. Don't do this at home yet, kids. Let me see if this works. So I have my weights in the garage so that I can do my strength whenever. So you think, oh, that's great. You can just go and do your strength, but still finding the time, half an hour to go and do my strength. So this week, I'm just going to, at the end of every run, I'm going to do like 10, 15 minutes of strength work and just see if it makes any difference. So, and I'm also going to do some really heavy leg weights and see what that does to my body. I want to just see, because I'm naturally really, really strong. I have a really strong legs. You've heard that. Arms. Like, I don't actually need to do a ton of strength work. I can go and do 20 press ups. Done. So I thought, right, so I did all my running yesterday, and then I finished the day with 6x6 of the heaviest deadlifts I could muster. And that was my strength session. And I thought, I'm just going to see, doing strength on tired legs. There's lots of research that's really bad for you. You shouldn't do that. You should do, you need to be doing this many. So I thought, I'm just going to try an experiment just on me and just see if actually doing my strength at the end of the day, at the end of hard sessions, because the race now that I'm going to do in the summer is all about running on really, really tired legs. I don't want to listen to what anyone says. I don't want to listen to anyone's science. I want to see if, perhaps from my previous experience, if I can change things up. And I always think changing stuff up is good anyway. It doesn't work.
Yeah. I think you've got enough knowledge and education that you could
And it was really
tune
hard,
into that.
Gary.
Yeah.
It was really hard. I had to go and get my gloves on halfway through because I gave myself such bad blisters because the bar was so heavy. But I really enjoy it. I love doing hard stuff like that. And that's why the session didn't happen today when I thought it was, because I could hardly walk down the stairs. We're going to say the experiment so far has not gone so well.
Isn't it funny though? You'd think you've got all this set up at home, you'd remove as much friction as possible. But I think sometimes then it makes it easy to procrastinate.
Yes, because I procrastinate and then I go, oh, now I've only got 20 minutes. Oh my God.
It's all that kudos edition out on Strava. Get off Strava.
Oh, endless. Anyway, so we'll see. I'll let you know next week. It was going to take a few weeks. So I'll let you know how that goes. But nothing exciting. Same old, same old. Consistency is king. Same old sessions, and just one day we might finish the Night Agent. That's about my running and
hanging on in there.
We're hanging on in there because I really want to watch Gladiator 2, but you know the rules. We can't start anything new till we finish the old stuff.
We've got about 4 things on the go.
Yeah, I want to come round to Thwaite's house and just.
Well, you don't want
to get dirty on the sofa.
Demi Moore.
I want to just get Bryn to do some light research into this, that what you're trying to make me watch. It's either some sort, you're smirking, so it's either horror or it's some sort of soft porn.
It's a body horror. Oh, I've got no idea what that means. What's a body horror? Esme told me it was a body horror. That's all I'll give you.
I don't want to Google that. I don't want to come out. So, nothing. Sorry. I know I should bring something exciting to the table, but let's be truthful. There isn't anything
No, I've got to think of something exciting if you don't step up.
So you're going to try doing 6x5 heavy stud lifts that you can do.
But trying doesn't count, does it? So I need to do better this week. I need to step up because I only did one gym last week. So I need to do... I've already done it though. We are Tuesday. I've been to the gym once. Hopefully going to do my brutal abs today. But yeah, if I can get that 3 sessions done, like I say, almost going to the gym does not count. I think it's the turn of the 800s that I did previously.
You didn't do 800s.
I did, God damn it. Look at my Strava. Just because you say it doesn't mean what you say is true.
It's so easy.
So yeah, but I'm definitely not, because it is like, say, 5.5 minutes for each of those 800s. I'm not going to do the 6 or 7. We'll see how it goes. And I might even make it as easy as possible, increase the rest to 2 minutes. Just keep adding those layers. And I remember this it is Valentine's Day this Friday. In Finland, they celebrate it slightly different. So while in many parts of the world they celebrate romance and love, Finland interpret the 14th of February differently. Valentine's Day is known as Friends Day, and everyone is included. Friends, family, neighbours, colleagues, and of course, sweethearts. All receive cards and flowers. I love that.
So you're going to send me cards, flowers and chocolates?
I don't think Bryn would be too happy.
He wouldn't care. If you sent him chocolates, he would be only too happy to receive them. And you'd probably send the card to Bryn anyway, dear Bryn.
Do you do Valentine's though? Me and Lisa do not do it. No. Oh, solidarity.
Yeah, just like every day is Valentine's Day around the Sutton household. Romance is, wow, off the charts. I think the chewing gum was like the highlight. Yeah, little notes. Just do the bins. I ask you to do the bins.
Passive aggressive. Just do the bins.
Just passive aggressive post-it note with nothing written on, but stuck on the bin.
Excellent.
Excellent. And on that highlight note,
good luck to everybody out on the trails, no matter what you're doing. Have a blast. Share your pictures in our Facebook group. I love seeing what you've all been up to. Yeah, share your adventures.
Thanks for tuning in. We love you. Thanks for listening. Please share the podcast, share the love. Pop over to Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Subscribe, or even consider being even more awesome than you already are and joining Patreon. Thanks to X Miles, Precision Full Hydration, Phoenix Light UK, Harrier Trail Running, and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show. I'm going to give you a quick recap of those discount codes. Get that post-it note out once you've sent a passive-aggressive one to your nearest and dearest. T10 for SHOKZ, T15 for Protein Rebel, and T-Time 2025 for Precision Full Hydration, T10 for Harrier Trail Running. Thanks to all our partners and Patreons. We couldn't do this without you and your ongoing support.
Let the trail rise to meet you and the wind always be on your back. Be kind to yourself, breathe and believe, progress not perfection. My name is Gary Thwaites.
And I'm Eddie Sutton.
And that was episode 108 of the Tea and Trails podcast.